Welcome back. You're watching the Startup Central with me, Nayantara Rai, working from home. Now, 2020 is a year which made EdTech the new norm. The question is that will EdTech stay as the buzzword and the flavor of the season, even in the post-corona world? Over the last few days, we've all been reading and hearing about the progress being made on the vaccine front, with the United Kingdom getting set for inoculations, Russia getting set for inoculations. It's a matter of weeks, according to experts, that we could see vaccines being administered even in India. So what will that mean for EdTech going forward? Will we see it being the same way it's being used as today? I'm going to be discussing that and more, the future of EdTech, with my panelists. And it's a very exciting panel that we've lined up for all of you today. So joining me now, and let me invite all my guests for the evening. Saurav Saxena, the founder and CEO of UAble. Now, UAble is teaching real-life skills to children. We're also being joined by Anuradha Aggarwal, the founder of Multibhasha, which is currently teaching 20 Indian languages and 15 foreign languages. Think of it as necessary to aspirational. We're being joined by Archin Shah, the founder of Pedagogy. Think of it as a Spotify of books for children. And Ankur Mittal, the co-founder at Inflection Point Ventures. He's the investor that we have on the panel. And guess what's common with all of our guests? It's Ankur, because he's invested in all of these 3 EdTech startups. Thank you all for joining us on this edition of the Startup Central. Ankur, let me come to you first. You're the investor. You found these 3 EdTech firms that you've invested in. You're firmly convinced that you're going to get very handsome returns from these 3 EdTech startups. But you know, EdTech is clearly the buzzword, right? If you look at 2020 itself, January to September, you've seen 76 deals of nearly worth about $2 billion. You've seen mushrooming of EdTech firms. The big question is that going into the new year, do you think EdTech will remain the flavor of the season? Will it be as hot in 2021 and in the years to come?
Thank you, Nayantara. Hi. All the 3 startups, whether it's Multibhashi, whether it's UAble, whether it's Pedagogy, we actually invested in them prior to the pandemic. UAble is the only one which we invested in June during the pandemic, but we started talking to them in January. And, the reason why I'm bullish about EdTech is because, like one of my VC friends puts it, the problem in India when it comes to education has been access and quality. What these EdTech startups are doing, they're kind of democratizing education. They are bringing quality, education to the wider population, in a much more reasonable manner, in much more accessible manner. So they are improving the accessibility. And so, the fundamentals for EdTech have been there for a while, and that will continue even after pandemic. What has changed during pandemic is the acceptance and the adaptability. So people have started accepting that yes, you can learn languages remotely. You can involve in these life skills remotely, like UAble does, or in case of Pedagogy, that you don't need to, the coaching centers, you don't have to physically be present to have access to all those best teachers and the best course books. So that accessibility, and acceptance, that has increased. And, with the EdTech market expected to, increase almost 4 times in next 5 years, with the number of paid users in India, in EdTech world going to, go above 30 million, 35 million. And the biggest thing is that as a household, as an Indian household, education, has the single largest, check that parents are willing to write. It's a single largest, share of disposable income, which has actually increased over the last few years. So, those fundamentals haven't changed. But more people have started seeing transactions and use cases coming through, and that's why the valuation. But I see the trend just going in the up direction.
Okay, so now let's go across to the founders of these EdTech firms. Saurav, if I can come to you first. So at UAble, you're providing what you describe to be as real-life skills to children. How has the pandemic been for UAble? You've had a captive audience, but is there any fear at all that when there is a vaccine, when the kids start going out again, screen time is going to become an issue once again for the parents, families, children, and everybody might just want a break from the screen.
Yeah, thanks, Nayantara. So, Nayantara, I think it has been a mixed bag. So, to your first question, what will happen after the pandemic? I think when I started building Uable, the focus was developing real world skills in children from a very early age, and we cover a huge age bracket, right, from 6-year-olds to 17-year-olds, and we provide some programs that are absolutely unconventional. Very few companies are providing programs like those to children. When we started, we were super unique, and our offering being online is a big strength for us, because we connect children all over the country and very soon all over the world with each other. So we follow a method of cohort-based learning where children learn in small groups with each other, with peers, and it's like a playground for them. So the real power of this playground really comes when they meet friends and are being joined by various peers from all over the country and all over the world. That is the real power of online learning on Uable. When we started, it was super unique. We were one of the foremost attention seekers on the screen time for parents and children. But when the pandemic hit, while the standard EdTech and even online learning platforms that have been providing a lot of services to schools, etc., really received those tailwinds, we faced those issues of parents really complaining a lot about screen time. Almost every offering coming online, still we see a lot of growth, still we see a lot of retention and acceptance of our product in the market. But once the pandemic settles down, I'm sure learning will, while the tailwinds would remain for EdTech, because there's a habit setting that has already happened in the market, and that's a good thing for EdTech firms at large. But a lot of other services will go back to the normal world. For example, schools definitely will learn a lot from online world and might transform into a blended way of learning, but will not remain online only for sure. So there would be unique offerings that will remain online, but many other offerings will also start going back to offline world. So for us, we are waiting for the pandemic to end, because we will definitely see much more traction after that and much reduced complaint of screen time.
So a hybrid model going forward, which, even if you look outside of EdTech, when we talk about work from home, when we return to offices, that's what a lot of the corporate startups, everybody's talking about. A hybrid model is perhaps going to be the new normal in the post-corona world. Archin, if I can come to you now, I understand that you are actually helping schools and institutes come out with a hybrid model for the post-corona world.
So let me quickly tell you what we're doing. So the mission is to make sure that all the kids in our country get access to quality education coming from trusted sources, and for us, and also at an affordable rate. So for us to be able to fulfill that vision, we created something that's called the Infinity Pass, which is something like a Spotify for education, where these kids get access to some of the best books and best courses by all of these institutes. What we saw when COVID hit was, I think there was uncertainty on all fronts with regards to education. So the students did not know when their exams were going to happen, and most of the classes weren't really geared up to adopt technology very, very quickly. And to bring some certainty to this uncertainty, we built a technology that would empower these institutes to conduct all of their live classes, be connected with the students, and be able to kind of create and deliver the content to the students. Because while the students were sitting at home, their exams were going to happen and they had to be prepared. So we wanted to deliver that. In order to make sure that all of that was happening, we had to quickly kind of adapt and shift gears in terms of being able to deliver that technology. The good thing that we're seeing is, as Ankur also earlier mentioned, that the whole genesis base is based on adoption. We're seeing adoption by compulsion slowly convert to adoption by choice. And I think that's great for the entire EdTech industry at large.
Okay, and you are helping the schools and the institutes, right, for this hybrid model, bringing them online, how they're going to continue having classes in the post-corona world?
Absolutely. So we work with all the stakeholders in education industry, be those content creators, teachers, or institutes who actually deliver the content, and the kids and students who actually consume this content.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Anuradha, let me come to you now. Yours is a startup that you described to me as something that could be necessary to aspirational. It's for learning languages. How was the lockdown and COVID-19 for you? Did you see traction coming onto the platform, which was more for upskilling as a necessity? Was it also, or was it perhaps more aspirational and a new hobby?
Sure. So Nayantara, first of all, let me explain in a couple of lines what Multibhashi is. Multibhashi is one of India's largest platform for learning new languages. And like you mentioned, we cover not just Indian regional languages and English, but we also cover all major foreign languages. And what's most helpful for the bottom of the pyramid audience for Multibhashi is that we teach English through these 20 plus Indian languages. So the biggest hurdle that we were facing pre-corona was, like everybody said, adoption. People found it hard to believe that you could learn a new language online, right? So this whole situation where now they could not get out and do this physically in institutes, and they were forced to try this online solution, gave us an opportunity to strengthen the belief that you can do it online, right? And this pushed us forward by a couple of years. The entire EdTech ecosystem is experiencing this. But, the kind of reaction we used to get from our potential customers earlier was online, everything is scam. I'm ready to learn as long as it's free, but I'm not going to pay anything, right? But post-corona, two problems got solved. Even the bottom of the pyramid now had payment options, online payment options, because most of them used to tell us pre-corona, I don't even know how to make payments online. I don't have an online payment solution. Now they do, because it's the necessity of the hour. Second, they don't think it's scam anymore because they're availing so many services online and they're all working fine. So these were the two things that helped us. But for Multibhashi, the interesting fact is that we span across segments. So we don't just serve the bottom of the pyramid, we also serve the top of the pyramid. So if I'm talking about blue and gray collar professionals learning English through their mother tongue on the platform, we also have NRIs settled in parts like China or America learning Spanish and Chinese with Multibhashi. We also have affluent kids in metros learning foreign languages with Multibhashi. So for us, it has been a very interesting journey. In fact, post-corona, we've seen an average MOM growth in revenue of 40% for us. So I guess, this has been really helpful for us.
Okay, you see a 40% growth in your revenues month on month. And of course, the lockdown has accelerated the digital adoption across sectors, and more than ever in EdTech. You had no choice, right? Would you not want your children to still continue with classes, learn, and all of that? So that has, of course, accelerated. But going forward, Ankur, if I can come back to you now, we've seen mushrooming of startups, right, in the EdTech space. As an investor, what are investors looking for in EdTech? How can they now differentiate? You've seen them address what was absolutely necessary, like even the largest EdTech companies that you have in the country, whether it's a Byju's or an Unacademy, for example, were not holding live classes, right, for K-12. They had to do that during the lockdown. So going forward in 2021, what is it going to take for an EdTech company to get a check, whether it is from you or like-minded VCs?
There are a lot of interesting trends that are coming out. So let me put it this way. I would have been scared if there was only one or two startups and not many others. Indian education market is so big that it's not a winner-takes-all market. Plus, a lot of these businesses, because of the adoption of online, they have a more global market. So technically, each of these three startup products can be consumed by an international audience and is being consumed by an international audience. For a startup to get noticed, see what is happening is there's, where there is honey, there will be bees, right? So there are a lot of Me Too's that have come into the market. There will be some people who will come and will improve the existing system. So just because somebody is doing well, because Byju is doing so well in what they're doing, or if somebody is teaching coding, so well, it doesn't mean that another startup cannot come and do the same thing better. So I, personally, as an investor, I don't have a bias against any idea that because this idea has already been tried, it cannot be improved upon. So there is a potential there. And what I also see as another trend is that there will be a lot of enabling EdTech startups that will now start coming in. So there are the big big EdTech startups of the world, but then there will be an ecosystem of other startups that will come around that will be supporting. So for example, even with schools which are going online, right? So there will be startups that will be converting their text, recording the videos of their teachers, making their teachers available, to their students, an online, offline model, offering more courses, offering more, because now students have been exposed to a wider options. So I see this. I see the trend continue. I see EdTech getting actually coming onto this call before. I had a chat with few VCs, who are big investors in EdTech to get their feedback, and everybody continues to be bullish. And that's because, again, we are a young country. 60% of our population is under 40. This target segment is going to increase. People like Anuradha are going to go for all ages. Saurav and Archin are going to go at some respective ages. So the target market is going to expand. The use cases are going to evolve. The supporting system is going to get created. That itself is a very strong indicator for why EdTech can be the buzzword for 2021 and 2022 and 23 also.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you later, Ankur, and ask you that what will EdTech also mean for one of the most trying times that people go through in their lives. One is to get their own children into schools, and the second time when they apply for colleges. I'm going to come back to you for that question. But Saurav, if I can come to you now, you just heard what Ankur has had to say. Does this take a lot of the pressure off of founders, because EdTech is not a winner-take-all market? Therefore, even if Me Too models mushroom, it's fine because it's so big, and here's an opportunity to build for India and for the world. For example, this is your second venture, right, in EdTech. Does it take a lot of pressure off?
Yeah, definitely, Nayantara. So I think it's about the ecosystem, and ecosystem has to be strong for any startup, any new idea to mushroom into something very, very powerful. For example, what we do at Viewable, we are standing against the conventional education system, trying to break the entire thought process of the conveyor belt, factory-like education system that has been in existence for a long time. So for me as a founder, I think with pandemic or without pandemic, it is always the long-term view that we have to take. We are building companies that will really be there and endure for 10, 20 years and make that kind of an impact. So competition is very, very important. What competition also does is keeps us on the toes to keep improving our product, to keep improving our experiences for the end consumers, both the children, while they are doing these kind of programs like entrepreneurship, coding, astronomy, etc. on the platform, or to keep parents happy with the kind of learning outcomes that we are promising. So competition is important, and there's no pressure as such, because while building any EdTech company or any education company, I think keeping the long-term view in our mind is very, very important, and ecosystem only plays out to our strengths and long-term vision. So definitely no pressure on that front.
Archin, if I can come to you now, so EdTech will stay the norm. All of you are in agreement with that in the years to come. Maybe we'll see a small break immediately after, the post-corona world. Like we've seen revenge shopping, revenge vacationing, maybe, just some break from the screen and all of that for temporarily. But Archin, going forward for this to really go down all the way, we're going to need to see EdTech companies come out in many, many more regional languages. And also the price point, how crucial is that also going to be? Right now, it's a necessity. As hybrid models evolve, that will also put pressure on a founder to make sure the pricing is right and affordable more than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely critical. You look at most of the students in our country, most of them, the general cycle, at least when I talk about pedagogy and the test prep space, students are enrolled in schools where they spend around 50,000-60,000. Then they also have to enroll in different institutes where they spend more money. And then adopt a technology. I guess affordability is something which is very, very critical in order to make sure that all the students in our country have access to it. I think about 90% of the kids still do not use one or the other EdTech platform primarily because of cost. And it's absolutely critical to make sure that it's priced right and it's affordable and accessible to all of the kids. Coming to the post-COVID era of with regards to EdTech, Saurav said absolutely correctly that eventually it will transform into a blended learning, be that a school, an institute, or any other educational institution, primarily because that human interaction is critical. You learn so many intrinsic skills, you have so many different experiences, just not the curriculum is not what you just learn at a school or an institution. I think that adds a lot of value in shaping up a personality of a child, and I think that's absolutely critical. But there are some
learning, right? Because
human learning, yes.
Yeah. But there are things that can be outsourced.
You'll also need one-on-one learning, right? Now, whether that's going to be with a robot or AI or an algorithm or whatever it is, because every child's needs are so personalized and weaknesses or strengths are so personalized. And that's something I'm sure all of you are grappling with. But we're running out of time. I'm left with only 2 minutes on this show. I've been prodded by my producer. So, Anuradha, I'm going to give you the last word. You told me that you grew 40% month on month during coronavirus and the lockdown. I'll let you have the last word. Is that kind of growth indeed sustainable? Because then you'll have to really grow and expand your market as well. And I'm asking you this on behalf of the EdTech companies. You've seen exponential growth. To carry on with that momentum, if that momentum is sustainable at all, it'll mean that you'll have to keep growing the market. Or have I got that right?
Yes. So Nayantara, definitely there is a lower base effect into picture. And I wouldn't say that the growth percentage will remain the same going forward. It's going to obviously get sanitized. But what I truly believe is that once you've tasted the entire experience of learning a language online, just imagine you traveling to an institute, sitting into a classroom and learning Spanish that you're actually doing right now in Nayantara. And instead of that, you're just switching on your computer, your teacher being live in front of you, teaching you for 30 minutes, and then boom, you're free to do whatever you want to do. After having tasted that success, it is very difficult to go back to the physical world and say, now I want to learn Spanish by going to that institute, when you're getting all the advantages here. So I think what this period has given us is a taste of that convenience, that personalization, which can only be achieved through tech. And while there will be some people who will choose the physical learning to online learning, and there'll be a balance between the two, I think the growth will continue in some form or the other. And I'll keep it short because I understand we're running out of time.
Yes, we are. And I'd like to thank all my panelists for joining us for this special discussion on EdTech and its future. Thank you so much for taking the time out and being a part of Startup Central. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. Write into us. Tell us what you thought of it. If you have any more questions, our email address is suc@etnow.tv, and we'll see you same time tomorrow, 6 p.m. right here on ET Now. Many thanks for tuning in.